she's not black and that she shouldn't identify as fully black because they say it's offensive to unambiguous and non-mixed black people and that it contributes to their erasure. And because of the one-drop rule, biracial children or biracial people being forced to just identify as black was rooted in Jim Crow and hegemony and racism. So a lot of unambiguous black people get offended when biracial people identify as fully black because they feel like it contributes to the erasure of unambiguous black people, and it's kind of enforcing white supremacy and racism because it originated from the one-drop rule of Jim Crow, where white people would not accept biracial children or, treat them the same and consider them not their actual blood because of the one-drop rule that gave white people an excuse to abandon and abuse biracial children and just consider them black. But in other problematic ways, such as Hollywood, they will use biracial people to portray, black people instead of unambiguous black people. In a lot of cases, biracial people end up becoming the face for black people. Like, no offense, Obama was considered black, but he's not an unambiguous black person. And Kamala Harris is also not an unambiguous black person. And most unambiguous black people will tell you this. When you're in areas where mainly unambiguous black people live, they're not going to jack that. I'm just telling you the truth. Because to a lot of unambiguous black people, it is the upholding of hegemony, Jim Crow, white supremacy, and a contribution to the erasure of unambiguous black people by just considering biracial people only black. It's removing history and upholding white supremacy. It's about black erasure and the one-drop rule, and historically, and how they kind of try to replace unambiguous black people with biracial people, or try to say biracial people are just black when biracial people were treated better than dark-skinned and unambiguous black people. They were still mistreated, like I just explained, by white people, but in many cases they would make biracial people house slaves, or they would let biracial people become celebrities and singers. While a dark-skinned woman could have better talent, they would pick the biracial. Even Beyonce is biracial. Beyonce's mixed. Beyonce has white in her. Like, a lot of this black celebrities we get look mixed or biracial. They're not unambiguous black people. So it does offend unambiguous black people too. I'm not saying all of them care, and I'm not saying all of them get offended. I'm not saying all of them are not going to be accepting towards it, but there is people that feel this way. So it's not really just about white fragility, because that's not even the case half the time. In fact, I feel most white women feel like because they have a biracial child, that makes them somehow more black, or makes them, like, you know what I mean? I think it's the opposite. I feel like white women are more excited to say, I have a black child, and identify with blackness. I'm guessing in very whitewashed areas, suburban with white people, maybe biracial kids go through that, right? But where I live in New York City, that's not what's happening, right? Like, in other areas, I guess, yeah, because you're surrounded more so by white culture and white people, and that's what's dominant and prevalent. Where I live, that is not what is dominant and prevalent. And so most white people here, they think it's cool to have a biracial kid, and they think that just makes them black, and they automatically just want to identify their children as black. And that's offensive to a lot of unambiguous black people, because again, white people used to triangulate biracial people against unambiguous black people during slavery on purpose. They would intentionally try to treat light-skinned and biracial people better than dark-skinned people. That's why we have colorism. That's why colorism is such a problem and such a big deal. Because dark-skinned people are usually on the short end of the straw receiving end of negativity of colorism. In a lot of cases, biracial people and light-skinned people benefit from colorism. Unambiguous black people do not benefit from colorism. So that's another form of white supremacy. So this is why black people get offended. Like, you're not black, you're biracial, because your experience is not the same as an unambiguous black person's experience. Your experience is still different. Just like as a white woman, no matter what, my experience and perception through a whitewashed world, my experience and a black woman's experience are never going to be the same. And even a biracial person's experience is not going to be the same as mine because I'm white. But an unambiguous black person who's not mixed at all and they're not light-skinned, their experience in this world is going to be different than a biracial person. And that's why it matters. That's why it matters. What do I present as? Yeah, I'm white. That's what I am. I'm white. I have white parents, white grandparents. So, and this is why a lot of black people will say, you're not fully black unless you have two sets of black grandparents, because it's offensive to you what happened in history with eugenics and black erasure and literally intentionally raping unambiguous black women to make biracial babies on purpose because they wanted to play around with eugenics as if we were dogs. They had breeding plantations to intentionally make biracial children. You also have to be aware of the other perspectives that exist in the world, so when other people in the world reality face you, you're prepared for that. Because my daughter always comes to me and tells me these things, and I have to explain to her about colorism and triangulation and slavery and the history of eugenics and why unambiguous black people get offended if she identifies as black. I have to have these conversations with her so she can understand, to have empathy and emotional intelligence and not have an identity crisis. Be okay with who you are. It's all right. You don't have to like it. I don't know. But moral to the story, but there's definitely a difference in experience between a black person and